The dragon-headed prows cut across every ocean. From the icy fjords of Norway to the burning sands of Africa, Viking sails blot out the horizon. London kneels, Paris burns, and even Baghdad trembles as warriors of Odin carve runes of conquest into the bones of the world. Now imagine them not as scattered raiders but as empire builders, uniting their clans under one crown and forging a realm that spans seas and continents. A Viking global empire, centuries before Britain, Spain, or Rome dreamed of such reach. In our real history, the Vikings were extraordinary, but their power flickered rather than blazed. Between the 8th and 11th centuries, they erupted out of Scandinavia, terrorizing Europe with raids on monasteries, towns, and cities. They discovered Iceland, Greenland, and even touched North America at Vinland. They ruled kingdoms in Dublin, York, and Kiev, and carved out the Duchy of Normandy. Yet, for all their daring, the Vikings remained fractured, chieftains and petty kings feuding, raids overshadowing long-term empire building. By the 11th century, Christianity spread, kingdoms centralized, and Viking ferocity faded into memory. But what if things had turned out differently? Suppose in the late 9th century, instead of fragmenting, the Norse united under a single ruler, a true king of all Scandinavia, like Harald Fairhair magnified tenfold. Imagine that this king forged unity through conquest and charisma, binding Norway, Denmark, and Sweden into a single Viking kingdom. Instead of rival clans squabbling, longships sail under one banner, one fleet, one empire, the first step, Europe. With a united Viking fleet, no kingdom in the British Isles can resist. Wessex, which historically held out against the Danes, is overwhelmed. London, Winchester, York, and Dublin become Viking provincial capitals. England becomes part of the Norse Empire, not just in name but in governance. France, already weakened by internal struggles, falls prey to organized Viking invasions. Instead of the patchwork Duchy of Normandy, Paris itself is remade into a Viking stronghold. From there, the empire pushes inland. Viking warriors ride not only ships but also horses, absorbing Frankish and Slavic methods of cavalry. The rivers of Eastern Europe, already highways for Norse traders, turn into arteries of conquest. Kiev and Novgorod, centers of the Rus, become imperial hubs linking Scandinavia to the Byzantine world. Imagine a Viking court in Kiev where runestones stand alongside Orthodox domes, a hybrid culture born of conquest and trade. Religion takes a fascinating turn. Instead of being absorbed into Christianity, the unified Viking Empire resists conversion. Odin, Thor, and Freyja remain state gods, their myths codified and spread like Roman or Greek religion once was. Across Europe, temples to Norse gods rise where cathedrals once stood. The sagas carved into stone and sung across courts become the scriptures of empire. Christianity may survive on the fringes, but pagan Norse faith remains dominant, reshaping Europe's spiritual destiny. Now imagine the Vikings turning outward. With England and France under their control, the Norse fleets dominate the Atlantic. By 1000 AD, their knowledge of Greenland and Vinland becomes more than a footnote. Instead of abandoned colonies, the empire commits resources to permanent settlement. Norse towns rise along Newfoundland's coasts, spreading southward. The Americas are discovered and settled centuries before Columbus, but by pagans with axes and longships rather than crosses and caravels. Native peoples encounter not Spaniards but Vikings, fierce, pragmatic, and eager for trade and tribute. The fusion is remarkable. Imagine Norse settlers marrying into Algonquin and Iroquois tribes, blending Viking seafaring with native farming and forest knowledge. By 1200 AD, the Norse-American frontier thrives, shipping maize, beans, and tobacco back across the Atlantic. Horses, iron tools, and old-world livestock reshape American societies centuries earlier. The Columbian Exchange begins not in 1492 but in 1000 AD, under Norse banners. But the Vikings don't stop there. Their longships, already masters of rivers and seas, venture farther. Southward, they raid into North Africa, bypassing the Sahara with Mediterranean ports seized from Islamic rulers. In this timeline, Vikings clash not just with Franks and Saxons but with the Abbasid Caliphate. Baghdad may not fall, but Viking trade posts on the North African coast tie Norse and Arab worlds together in a web of commerce and rivalry. Imagine Arabic scholars recording encounters with northern pagans who sail dragon ships into the Mediterranean. The economic effects ripple outward. The Viking Empire, built on silver, slaves, and furs, evolves into a trading giant. Instead of isolated raids, imperial policy ensures regulated markets. Towns like York, Dublin, and Kiev become bustling ports linking America, Europe, and Asia. The Vikings, pragmatic traders, adopt coinage, bureaucracy, and laws from conquered peoples. Their legal codes, enriched by Roman and Byzantine influences, blend with Norse traditions to form an imperial structure that rivals Rome. By 1200 AD, when our history still saw fragmented kingdoms and crusades, this alternate timeline boasts a unified Norse empire spanning Scandinavia, Britain, France, Eastern Europe, and colonies in America. Its fleets dominate the Atlantic, its armies march deep into the continent, and its culture, runes, sagas, and gods outshapes the identity of Europe. Instead of Gothic cathedrals, Europe rises with grand wooden halls decorated with carvings of Thor's hammer and Odin's ravens. Technology accelerates, too. Vikings were master ship builders, their clinker-built longships ideal for oceans and rivers alike. In an empire, their shipbuilding evolves into larger vessels capable of global navigation centuries earlier. With access to American resources, Norse metallurgists experiment with new alloys, perhaps even advancing toward early industrial techniques. Imagine Viking artisans forging steel with American coal deposits or experimenting with mechanical water wheels in their towns. By the 1300s, the Norse could approach technologies Europe only saw in the 1700s. Culturally, the Viking Empire transforms. Pagan traditions remain strong, but the empire absorbs ideas wherever it goes. From Byzantium, they adopt administration and architecture. From Arabs, mathematics and astronomy. From Native Americans, agricultural innovations. The sagas expand to include not only tales of Thor and Loki, but also stories of voyages to Vinland, battles with desert empires, and marriages between Norse jarls and native chieftains. A hybrid culture emerges, Viking in spirit, global in scope. Now zoom in on individuals. Picture a young Norse boy in York around 1100 AD. Instead of a small, Christianized town, he grows up in a bustling Viking capital where ships arrive from Africa, America, and Russia. He learns runes and Arabic numerals, sagas, and navigation charts. His world feels vast, interconnected, and full of opportunity. Or imagine a native woman in Vinland around 1050 AD who marries into a Norse family and raises children who speak both Algonquin and Old Norse, blending traditions of longhouses and longships. Their descendants form a bridge between two continents centuries before Europeans dreamed of it. What about Europe's future with the Viking Empire in control? The Renaissance never looks the same. Instead of rediscovering Rome, Europe develops under Norse influence, maritime, pagan, and exploratory. Art celebrates Odin and Thor, not Christian saints. Architecture favors wooden halls and rune-carved stone, not Gothic spires. Science advances through navigation, metallurgy, and trade-driven curiosity. Instead of the Catholic Church steering knowledge, the empire's pragmatic openness to ideas fosters innovation. Globally, balance shifts. The Mongols may still rise in Asia, but they encounter a Norse superpower across the steppes. Instead of a Europe too weak to resist, a Viking-led Europe meets them with equal ferocity. The great clash of the 13th century is not Mongols versus fractured kingdoms, but Mongols versus Vikings, the horse archers of the steppe against the seafaring warriors of the north. The outcome of such a clash could shape whether Eurasia becomes Mongol or Norse in character. By 1500 AD, the world is utterly transformed. The Viking Empire, having survived for centuries, commands both Old and New worlds. America is not discovered by Spain but already integrated into Europe's destiny. Africa sees Viking ports alongside Arab ones. Asia trades with Norse fleets in the Indian Ocean. The global order arrives early, not under Columbus, da Gama, or Magellan, but under the raven banners of Odin's children. So, what do we make of it? A Viking global empire accelerates exploration, trade, and cultural blending by centuries. Pagan traditions dominate, the Columbian exchange happens early, and the shape of civilization itself is altered. Whether this empire thrives as a beacon of progress or collapses under its own ferocity is another question. But one thing is certain, if the Vikings had united and built an empire, the world we know today would look very different, perhaps more Norse than Roman, more longship than Gallian. So, what do you think? Could the Vikings have truly united and ruled the seas forever, or was their nature too wild for empire? Would the world be richer under Odin's eye, or poorer without the faiths and cultures that rose later? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Sheriff Reactions for daily flips, because history isn't just what happened, it's what could have happened.